One natural disaster could change your life forever. What can you do? Turn to AARP. We help older adults and their families prepare, respond, and recover with evacuation checklists to help you remember prescriptions and other essentials, information to help you avoid scammers, connections to on-the-ground emergency responders, and lots of other tips and tools. At AARP, we're here to help. Find us at aarp.org/local.
Weather, highways. How you doing, everybody? I'm Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. Heat's still the hot topic of weather conversation, right? Just smashed the previous record for rainfall in Tampa. Still a very nice day. We've got some clouds out there, even a couple of sprinkles as another front rolls through the area. Most of us wake up to sunshine and then very warm temperatures in the afternoon. For temperatures, they're going up and they're staying up. Really nice forecast, especially if you're planning on going to the beach or the pool. Rain chances very slim. Another beautiful day in store. It's going to bring us a very high chance of storms. Some isolated showers across the area. Mother Nature likes to remind us that it isn't set by a calendar. We're always on it for you, just in case things begin to pop.
Streaming from the ABC Action Weather Center in Studio A, this is Denis Phillips Live, sponsored by AARP Tampa Bay.
How you doing, everybody? I am losing my voice, but I think we're okay for the next 30 minutes. ABC Action News Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. Welcome to Denis Phillips Live. We have got a ton of stuff to talk about. Matter of fact, so much stuff, it's time to break out the Diet Dr. Pepper. We got tropics, all right? So, nectar of the gods. You know, back in 2004 when Charlie was coming, I lived on Diet Dr. Pepper and Hot Pockets, pepperoni Hot Pockets. Breakfast of champions, lunch of dinner of, well, you get it. You know, I'm sitting here looking at the comments coming in, and my favorite thing is to see how many areas y'all are watching from. And, yeah, I definitely got some sun today. I definitely did, Delia, or is it Delia? Probably, I'm not sure. Anyway, whichever the pronunciation. So we definitely have a lot going on. So we're going to jump into it. A lot of tropical talk. But before we get into the tropics, I do want to talk about what's going on behind me, all right? And then we will talk all about what will likely be Opellia and how that's going to impact the Carolinas, all right? Let's go ahead and take this full. And again, thank you for all the hellos. Oh, look, Ellicott City, Maryland. We've got a lot of folks from the Mid-Atlantic watching with good reason because you guys are going to get some squally weather. You're going to get a tropical storm, which, you know, tropical storms happen. You guys live on the coast, you know. But we'll get into how the rainfall will be an impact, you know, what kind of a surge issue we're talking about with just a tropical storm and whatnot. But there's a lot of little variables that are coming into play. And this is kind of a time that I enjoy because it's when you get to really kind of use your experience because this is not your traditional tropical storm moving into the mid-Atlantic for a number of reasons. And we'll get on that in just a second. But again, quickly, I do want to talk about what's going on locally. A lot of people are asking questions about New York City. Again, we'll get into all of that, I promise. So there's a look at what's happening right now. We definitely have some rain moving in from our northern counties. There is some lightning with that as well. That's where the rain is. My daughter's softball game is just about to get rained on, I'm afraid. Let's see what kind of lightning we're talking. Not a ton of lightning. And this is kind of the last bit of it, too. And by tomorrow this time, this will be long gone, and we are looking at much cooler temperatures. So there's your rain. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of coughing. I can feel it. I should go get a lozenge, but you know, how do you suck in a lozenge while you're doing the weather? It's a good question. Don't know the answer. Then I would be like, you know, that would kind of be kind of rude, like sucking on a lozenge while you're trying to talk to somebody. There's tomorrow morning, upper 60s to low 70s. Comfortable start to the day. Afternoon highs in the upper 80s. So over the next 3 days, the Bay Area is going to be seeing much more of a contrast in temperatures, and it's kind of the best of everything. If you like cool temperatures, look what we got for you on Saturday morning. How about that? Low to mid 60s north of I-4, low dew points. Along the water where the bay is still 90, it's obviously going to be warmer. But see, this is the time of the year where you got your cool air in the morning and you still have your warm air in the afternoon. So you got something for everybody. Now, I'm going to be putting out my Halloween decorations this weekend, my outside ones. I think the time has come. I don't think it's too early. So I'm kind of loving the fact that the humidity is going to be low and it's going to be really comfortable out there. Look at Sunday morning. Pretty much the same thing. You start low to mid 60s again, northern counties, and then you warm up to about 90 degrees later on. All right? So there you go. There is our forecast. Rain chances down near zero. Beautiful mornings, absolutely beautiful, beautiful mornings. And the afternoons will warm up, but without the humidity. So it's actually going to be really spectacular. All right? So let's go ahead and let's jump in to some tropical talk. And here it is. So right off the bat, the first thing people like, what the heck is a tropical cyclone? You guys are just trying to scare us. Oh, there's the media again trying to scare everybody. He's calling it a tropical cyclone. Just call it a storm. No. So in meteorological talk, a cyclone is an area of low pressure. It's not like anti-M, the whole tornado stuff in the Midwest. No. A cyclone is just an area of low pressure. And an anticyclone is an area of high pressure. And what came to mind? Taylor Swift's anti-hero. What has my daughter done to me? Anyway, anticyclone is high pressure, cyclonic flow, low pressure, right? Tropical cyclone, tropical low. Makes sense, right? So what the heck is a potential tropical cyclone 16? All right? When a storm will threaten a landmass with people, the Hurricane Center has changed their delivery of information in a good way. And even though it is not a depression yet, it is not a storm yet, it will be impacting a populated area. So they issue this so a track can be issued by the NHC. So that's why you get this potential tropical cyclone 16. It's very close to being a tropical depression 16, but because it isn't yet, they give people forewarning. How's the expression go? Forewarned, I don't know, I can't remember. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. So, point is, there will be a track. And you're like, get on with it, Dennis. What the heck is the track? Okay, let me get my little clicker thing. All right. And let's look at the track. Now, first of all, I'm going to take this full. You don't need to see me. So there it is. All right. It is a very ragged system and is not organized yet. But there are a couple of things that are very important to note if you live in the Carolinas or the Midwest. If you live in Florida, all this is going to do, see, I brought myself back in because I got to talk with my hands on this here. So if you live in Florida, all this is going to do is the stronger it gets. And by the way, I kept trying to think of what the whole spinny thing, the figure skaters, you know, when they bring their arms really close and they start spinning really, really fast. For the life of me, I was trying to figure out what that is called. Not the physics thing, angular momentum. I get that part. That dates back to my days at Penn State. I'm talking about what the figure skater thing is called when they go super fast and they bring their arms in. Well, what's happening when this storm starts to do that, consolidate a little bit, it'll start to wrap on the back side of it, draw in some drier air, lower humidity, and cooler temperatures for Florida. That's the impact for Florida, all right? But what about for the Carolinas? Well, here's what's interesting. With a storm like this that is starting as a non-tropical, hybrid, subtropical kind of a thing, right? In other words, a blob, the winds are not centrally located to the center. The winds are on the perimeter of the center. So why is that important? It's important because the Carolinas are going to get wind a lot sooner than they think. Because if you're waiting for this center to come in, the wind is going to be there a heck of a lot sooner than when the storm is going to be there. Now, what kind of wind are we talking about? Look, It's a tropical storm. Winds of 50 to 60 maybe. You know, again, if it becomes truly a tropical system, then the majority of that wind will be east of the center anyway. All right? So my point is, look, the Outer Banks of the Carolinas, they get this stuff all the time. Now, usually it's coming in from a different angle, and it's starting to accelerate. This one, not so much. This one is going to slow down some, and that will lead to flash flooding issues, not surge. That's another issue entirely. There's going to be a lot of rain because it is going to be slowing down. So the wind factor in this system, 50 to 60, let's be honest. What kind of damage is a 50 to 60 mile an hour wind going to be? Now, there's the folks who always, because you always do it, let's talk about the worst case scenario and scare the bejesus out of everybody, right? Look, this is not the kind of setup for rapid intensification. It's not going to have a lot of time to do so. But yeah, it could absolutely be a mid to upper level tropical storm, which could be 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. Floridians sneeze at 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. That's an afternoon thunderstorm. But there are other, so I repeat, I don't think wind is going to be an issue, a big issue. Look, if you're going to go out there and stand there and hold a microphone and be like this, yeah, it's going to be good video. But is it the kind of video that really, is it the kind of storm that really does some significant wind damage? It does not. It is not. Well, what if it goes to a Cat 4 in 12 hours? Then what, buddy? Okay, well, if it does, if that were to happen, then we address it. But that appears extraordinarily unlikely for a number of reasons. One, it will exit a lot of the warm water. This is not the Gulf of Mexico, all right? And it doesn't have the same ingredients in development that you get in that incredibly deep warm water once it goes a little more north. Right now, there's still some pretty solid warm water over the Gulf Stream where it is. All right, so I repeat, you know my mantra on this. Why waste time talking about what ifs that aren't even in the forecast? Most of the models are going down to 990 millibars, thereabouts. It's a solid tropical storm, 50 to 60 mile an hour winds, right? So let's get that out of the way, okay? Now, let's change sources here, and let's talk about what we think is going to happen on every facet of this storm, okay? So, we're going to start with the flash flood potential, which is this map right here. Now, when we talk about flash flooding, what are we talking about? We are talking about fresh water flooding caused by rainfall. This has nothing to do with surge, okay? And as I just said, the reason areas from New York, Connecticut, coastal southern New England, through the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area, inland areas are all going to get a lot of rain with this because it's a slow mover. So there is at least a slight risk. Yellow is slight. It is not moderate. It is not high. There's a slight risk of some flash flooding due to the heavy rain. And it is not Opellia yet, Evelyn. Good question. At least it wasn't last I checked. But it will, once it's named, the Hurricane Center believes it will indeed be a tropical storm, and it will be named Opellia. It could be Philippe if the blob out in the far Atlantic is named first, but it doesn't seem like it would. Exactly right, Jules. Ocean City, Maryland. Love it. We're planning our, matter of fact, my family's planning our trip there just today. We started talking about getting a place for next summer. All right, because Ocean City, Maryland is awesome. Here are the projected rainfall totals for these areas. Dark green, 2 to 4 inches of rain. That covers all of Jersey, all of New York, all of Connecticut, all of Rhode Island, all of Massachusetts, including the Cape, the eastern third of Pennsylvania, all of Maryland except for Garrett County on the western side. I know this area well. I grew up in that area. The Delmarva, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, Delmarva, 2 to 4 inches of rain. The yellow areas are 4 to 6 inches of rain, and that's from D.C. to Richmond through the eastern third of the Carolinas and the Outer Banks. From Wilmington, east of Raleigh-Durham, over to Cape Hatteras. So that is the rainfall prediction for this area. Why will the rainfall be higher with this one? Rhonda, how you doing? Jules with her crabs emojis. So why will the rainfall totals be, and here's an interesting point. I love bringing up these points here, all right? Why will the rainfall totals be higher with this one as a tropical storm than they were for a hurricane like Lee? Why? Because Lee is moving faster. This will run into a roadblock, which I'll show you in a minute. It'll run into a roadblock, slow down, and dump a lot of rain. But when it moves in, it will weaken. So the winds, again, will not be a hurricane force winds. I think they'll end up being mid-sized tropical storm force winds, 50 to 60. You know, there's going to be some tree stuff down and some stuff, but not significant damage from any kind of wind. Again, unless the what ifs come over. And if that's the case, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but it's not going to be the case. But if it were, that's, you know, something we address. You guys know me. I hate all the, well, what if it does this? And what if it does this? Why bother? Why confuse you even more trying, well, you know, this model says this one, on this one says this, but what if this one on Wednesday says this? Look, let's just go with the forecast. Let's give you what we think is going to happen. And if we have to change it because it's wrong, because things change, then we do that. Makes more sense to me. All right, so where was I? On a soapbox, as usual. Okay, so there we go. Let's go to the next one. This is the most likely time of arrival of tropical storm force winds. All right? Notice again, Florida is not in this. How you doing, Rita? So, look at the area you're interested in, and if the area that you are in is not in this, then you're not going to get tropical storm force winds. All right? So look at the Outer Banks of the Carolinas. Coastal North Carolina between 8 o'clock tomorrow night and 8 a.m. Saturday morning, tropical storm force winds are expected. Then, from the Outer Banks through Richmond, anywhere from central to Shenandoah east in Virginia, through Maryland, southwestern Maryland near Patuxent River, from Chincoteague, Virginia, Salisbury, Maryland, down south between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. So the D.C. area more afternoon to evening on Saturday evening, afternoon and evening. Then from Ocean City, Maryland, through Wilmington, Fenwick Island, Dover, Easton, Maryland, Annapolis, up toward Philly, the southern Jersey Shore, between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. By then, let me be very, very clear about this. By then, I believe a lot of the tropical storm force winds will already start to be subsiding because the storm will have moved inland and it will weaken. Okay? That makes sense, right? But that's worth noting. Let's go back to the track. And you know what I'm going to do with the track? I'm going to zoom in on the track here. Let's go ahead and zoom into this map here. So here you go. So there is the ultimate track. You have a landfall near the Outer Banks, which is a very, very common landfalling location from a tropical system, with winds of about 60. So there you go. You're talking 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. There will be some kind of a surge, and we'll talk about that. And then it starts to weaken significantly, and it's down to 35 by the time it goes over to Annapolis. It is no longer a wind issue. So even though the time of arrival of winds will be 8 p.m. Saturday night, what kind of winds are we talking about? Much, much lower winds. And then down to 30 as it passes near New York on Monday morning. So again, I don't think New York is going to get anything other than some rain out of this. And again, maybe a little bit of surge. So there's your track. And there's the timing. Okay? Now let's go back. So we have this is the time frame where the most likely time of arrival of tropical storm force winds, right? Let's look and see if there's any map that shows arrival. Well, and there isn't. I'm not even going to tease it. I was going to ask about hurricane force winds. There aren't any because it's not going to be a hurricane, at least with the current track. Now, this is something worth noting. If you live on the water, and again, I realize this is not a lot of folks in the Bay Area, and Ryan, you are 100% right. We need the rain. But this is a look at storm surge, okay? From South Carolina, 1 to 3 feet, through central and northern North Carolina, the Pamlico Sounds. All right, this is a 2 to 4 foot surge, and in some inlet areas, 3 to 5. Where this water, you guys remember this with our storms, right? When the water is pushed in to a concave area, where in other words, there's no place for it to go, right? When you're pushing the water into something where it stops, that water, and it hits the end, is going to rise a little bit more there. So in those spots, there could be a surge as high as 3, 4, or even 5 feet. That's not an unheard of surge for this area. If you live in that area or know anybody who lives in that area, you go through that a lot. You're probably well aware of what will happen with that. But that's how it's shaping up. And that extends into the lower Chesapeake Bay. All of a sudden, you're looking at a 2 to 4 foot surge. And then once you get into the upper Chesapeake Bay, when you're starting looking at areas like Annapolis, and right on up into the bay, 1 to 3 foot surge. Not massive, same as it goes into the Delaware Bay as well. And right up through midway up the Jersey Shore, a 1 to 3 foot surge. So there are the surge predictions right now. I think they're probably going to be a little bit high. I would not be surprised if they're a little bit lower in some spots. But I think it's a pretty solid ballpark prediction on this one. So there you have it, all right? Now, we won't even get into this. This is the next 2 weeks, just showing you that the Gulf is expected to be quiet, and the Caribbean is expected to be quiet as well. So that is a good thing. And anything that does develop looks like it's going to develop impacting at or just north of the islands. And as we were saying yesterday, all right, and this is very important when you see all these big red blobs like the one we've got there out in Africa. Look, by the time we're into the end of September, October, what do we get every 6 or 7 days on the East Coast? We get fronts. We don't here in Florida, but you do on the East Coast. That front comes in, that is going to swing a storm out to sea. It happens 95% of the time. It just does. And whether or not that front is strong enough to do it sooner or later, it's still going to happen before it makes landfall on the East Coast the overwhelming majority of the time. The only time that's not the case like this one is when a storm literally develops right off the coast, which is what this happened. It's called a homegrown system. And that's it. So as we look at other models and we look at the big red blob out in the middle of the ocean, or the eastern Atlantic. Oh, there's the rainfall, by the way, which we already kind of went over. But there's the rainfall expected out of this system. So when we look at, here's the GFS. And I just want you to watch it. So there goes the GFS, builds it up, not a particularly strong storm. Again, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. I swear I wouldn't. Then we look at this one out here, right? And it's developing, and it's going west. If this were earlier in the season, that would be another story. There's your ridges, they're blocking it, and then all of a sudden, look what comes, a front. And what happens when that front comes in? Curves right away. So there it is. And then the GFS actually drives it back with high pressure building back into northern New England, which happened with Lee, but I'm talking about the majority of the East Coast. Now, when we look at the Euro, all right, let's see if the Euro shows the same thing. Euro shows development of our low, Opellia, probably. Same track, that's where it's going to go. There's no question about the track at this point. Then we look at our other area down south, and Euro develops it a little bit. Doesn't really do that much to it. Finally gets going, and then look what happens. There's a front. There's the front. See the front? And what happens to it when the front comes in? Zoop! It goes right to the northeast and out to sea. High does try to build it back again, but not as much as the GFS. So there it is. Pretty simple stuff. In terms of this storm, there's 24 hours. That's tomorrow morning. Tomorrow afternoon, look at the wind out ahead of it. I said this at the very beginning of this chat. Your low center is here, but because it's not truly a tropical system, it is going to go well to the north. The winds are going to start well to the north of where that low center is. Tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, looks like an egg. Overnight, and then Saturday morning, and that's 1,001 millibar. I mean, that's nothing. I mean, that's 40 mile-an-hour winds, if that. And then it slows down and turns into a significant rain event for the mid-Atlantic. All right? Euro. There's the GFS, here's the Euro. GFS, Euro, almost identical. Let's go. I got to say it. You guys know it's coming. It's almost identical. All right. There's not a day I go by without quoting my cousin Vinny in some way, shape, or form. So there you go. This takes us to Saturday morning. There's the GFS. There's the Euro. Identical. And then 1,001 millibars. So they both have 1,001 millibar low pressure as it moves on shore. The Euro is a little more aggressive in letting it escape and get out. And that's it. So my friends, Emily, how are you doing? All right, you want me to show you the models on the blob again, all right? Emily, nice to see you, all right? So here's the blob model. And we will show you the GFS. Again, the GFS does develop it, curve it away, and then high pressure builds back in and tries to drive it back to the west. At this point, that is an outlier. See how it builds it? Pretty strong, and then comes back. We'll see. But at the end of the day, here's my prediction. To sum up all of this discussion, my prediction is we will have Tropical Storm Opellia with winds of 45 to 55, as high as 60 in some areas along the North Carolina coastline. It will slow down. It will cause some significant rains of 3 to 5 inches with some minor areas of flash flooding. It will not be a major wind event. There will be some surge. The one behind it, which would be Philippe, will develop, probably stay just north of the islands. It's a close one, and then curve. For the Bay Area, we have still got some rain going on out there, and significantly cooler weather comes in by Saturday morning with lows in the low to mid 60s. The huge changes, Elizabeth, are temperatures dropping into the lower 60s on Saturday morning. Lower 60s. I don't know about you, but that's a huge change to me. We haven't seen that in 7 months. Low 60s on Saturday, north of I-4. Low 60s on Sunday, north of I-4. And then the warmth returns later on. All right? There's the rain that's moving through the area right now. I will be answering questions once our streaming folks leave in about 45 seconds, and I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you have. Here is a look at the rain moving through. Oh, my daughter's softball game is getting rain now. Riverview to Tampa, picking up some rain right now, a little bit of lightning. This is all moving south, and as it does, it will clear us in a few hours, and we will be home free with some very pleasant weather for the weekend. All right? So there you have it. There's my tropical update. Since it will be storming tomorrow, I will be back here tomorrow night with another edition of Denis Phillips Live. I will continue on Facebook, YouTube, and whatever else platform I'm on, and answer your questions coming up of our streaming app. For the folks who are watching on our streaming app, thank you very much for watching. Have a great night, and we'll see you on the next edition of Denis Phillips Live. Okay, streamers are gone, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have. All right. Allison wants to know what Maryland can expect. Tell me exactly what part of Maryland you are talking about. Maryland is a big place from Garrett County all the way to the Eastern Shore, so I need to know which one. I know, Ken, I would love to go to that whiteout this week. I have never been to a whiteout. Never been to a Penn State whiteout. They're playing Iowa. It's this weekend, and it's on my bucket list. Like maybe more than anything else is to go to a Penn State whiteout. I have never been able to go. In Towson. All right, Towson will see 3 to 4 inches of rain. Winds will not be an issue, 25 to 35. That would be Towson. Jamia, no storms tomorrow. We will not see rain tomorrow. All right? I do not know where Swans Oral, North Carolina is. Oh, you got your sweatshirt, Allison. Awesome. Virginia Beach area. Yes, rain event. Virginia Beach, however, will probably get, well, let's go back to that other map. Yeah, you know what? I actually think Virginia Beach will probably get 40-mile-an-hour winds. Yeah, I think Virginia Beach will get 40-mile-an-hour winds. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the stars. All stars proceeds go to Children's Miracle Network from now through Christmas. And by the way, I got to mention this because everybody and their brother was asking me about this. For some reason, it became a thing. We have added dog bandana collars on our Etsy page. Again, rule number 7, don't freak out unless I'm freaking out. We're fine. And that's what rule number 7 is. And all the proceeds benefit. They were benefiting the Red Cross, the local Red Cross for hurricane relief, but we've gone back to Children's Miracle Network now. And as you see, lots of stuff, including dog collars. They're pretty awesome. And there they are. So you can go on my Etsy page. The link is at the top of the Facebook page. And you can get any of the rule number 7 stuff. There's even Christmas ornaments. And what we're telling people, if they come to our house for Christmas lights, I will autograph them as well. So anyway, there we go. Let's go back. So I have never freaked out, Susan. I got borderline close with Irma, but never did, because you got to keep your head on straight when these things are coming, right? Flying into D.C. on Saturday, will it be a rocky landing? Bernadette wants to know. I think by the time the wind gets to D.C., it'll be close to 30 to 35, even a little lower. I think you'll be fine. Pennsylvania will be fine on Tuesday. Right now, Susie, I just talked about that. It's not a particularly big storm. It's just some rain. Don't worry about it. You're all good in Clearwater. Lutz, highs in the mid to upper 80s, Bobby, this weekend. Morning lows in the middle 60s. Tornadoes in the Wilmington, Delaware area. That is a very good question. Kim, that is a very good question, and let's discuss that. All right? That is an excellent question. Hold on, let me get the map up, which will show you kind of what we're thinking. I can call this map up. Is it? Yeah, all right. So here, I'm going to zoom in. Hold on. Okay, let's go ahead and take this full. Now, we all know the northeast quadrant of any hurricane is typically the quadrant in which you will see tornadoes. Thank you for the stars. I appreciate it. Again, Andrea, all stars donate Children's Miracle Network. So there's your track. Wherever that low center crosses, north and east of that center is where there will be a tornado threat. Granted, a weakening system over the Delmarva, probably a bigger threat for the Outer Banks of the Carolinas and Norfolk and Virginia Beach, up from Richmond, and then at that point it starts to wind down. Rain tonight in Kenneth City. Yes. Not a lot, but it is going to come through for about 10 minutes. It's going to be a beautiful weekend here in the Bay Area. All right. Tuning in from Norfolk. Yep, there was your update page from Norfolk. Anybody else? Just see your questions now. I'm looking at them now because I'm... New Jersey, okay. Yes, Deb, New Jersey will get some wind some rain out of this. Not a huge amount. I will show you the rainfall predictions for New Jersey, or for Jersey. Right here. Flights from Rhode Island to Tampa Saturday afternoon. No, I don't think you'll have any delays. I think you'll be fine. Jacksonville, North Carolina. Yeah, I think you're going to get 50 to 55 mile an hour gusts in Jacksonville. Maybe even as high as 60. Here's the rainfall. Jersey obviously is going to get rain, 2 to 4 inches of rain. Wind will not be an issue. Nothing in the Gulf, Brenda. This is all in the Atlantic. No storm in Wesley Chapel. Virginia Beach, however, on Saturday, Eric, will. Virginia Beach on Saturday is probably going to get 50 to 55 mile an hour winds. Long Island is okay in all caps, Nancy. It's going to rain. That's it. It's going to rain. 2 to 4 inches of rain in Long Island. That's what we're looking at. You're welcome, Tammy. PA, again, if you look at the rainfall potential, we're looking at dark green is 2 to 4 inches, 4 to 6 in the yellow area. Susie's pool chairs are flying with the storm we have going on out there right now. Definitely some wind. Is Delaware going to get it Saturday or Sunday? Michelle, there is the time. I will take it full. The Outer Banks this weekend, Cindy, 55 to 65 gusts in the Outer Banks on Saturday morning. Friday night to Saturday morning. You're going to see those gusts. Nancy, thank you. Yeah, Virginia Beach, Tony. I do think Virginia Beach is going to get 50 to 55. I do. I'm thinking of putting up the Halloween stuff this weekend, Ryan. Yes, I am. It's going to be a nice weekend for it. You're very welcome, Allison. Anybody else? Yeah, again, these are the rain. This is the time. What you're looking at right here is the most likely time the tropical storm force winds will arrive. Frank, how you doing, my friend? Frank did the 4th of July lights, fireworks display at Innisbrook this year. And he'll let me push the button to start it. So there's a look at when tropical storm force winds are expected. Whole neighborhood does not do Halloween like Christmas. Christmas is another animal entirely. Greenville, North Carolina, it will be raining all day, Christina. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Well, you know what? Hold on a second. Let's do something here. I'm going to call up a different map. Let us look at our 12K map because most of the rain will be at or north of the center, right? So the center will have passed there by Saturday afternoon. So maybe you'll get a bit of a break. Let's look. Stand by. I'm on my other computer here. You'll see it in just a second. All right, so let's go. Okay. Okay, I'm going to change the source so you guys can see this now. And this will be a look at Futurecast. Just ignore all those cities that are right there. No issues on Sunday, New Jersey to Tampa. Wind will not be an issue, Megan. Crews returning to New York on Sunday morning. You know, it ain't going to be nice, but you'll be fine. There's not going to be much wind in New York. Yeah, Tony, it's going to be a little gusty. Might be kind of I don't know, an entertaining trip. All right, so there is a look. Here, let's zoom into this. Look at your timestamps, all right? Here, I'm going to get rid of this camera so we can just... All right, here we go. So, look at the timestamp on the top, all right? You start to see the leading edge move on shore tomorrow morning. Because again, a lot of the convection and a lot of the wind is north of the center as it's just starting to develop. So there's your rain, okay? There's 7 o'clock tomorrow night, 10 o'clock tomorrow night. Let's move it up a little bit here. Look at the areas you're interested in. It's Friday night, Saturday morning. The landfall around 6 a.m. on Saturday with this model. Ah! That was too close. So you notice by Saturday afternoon, actually, a lot of that rain has moved north. So yeah, that makes sense. So it will not rain all day on Saturday. See, I'm going to go back again. Midnight, Friday night, Saturday morning. 6 a.m. Saturday morning. 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Noon on Saturday afternoon. 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. 6 o'clock Saturday evening. By then, a lot of that rain, and look, it's all the way up in New England. The storm is right here, but the rain is way out ahead of it. And by the time the center, which we're showing you, by the time the center gets there, there ain't much left to it. So don't worry about where that low center is supposed to be on Sunday with that track, because it's kind of meaningless. All right? So there it was. There was your timeline. All right. Well, there you go, folks. I'll probably be back tomorrow night. I often go to Sam's Clubs on Friday night because I lead a wild lifestyle. For my dinner, I don't normally leave for dinner. I normally just hang out here. But on Friday nights, I treat myself and go to Sam's Club and look at the Christmas decorations or the Halloween decorations. So that's my life. Landfall between Wilmington and Jacksonville. That's what it looks like, Tammy. Yep, that's what it looks like. So I'll be back tomorrow night because by then we'll probably already be getting some tropical storm force gusts in the Carolinas. And then we'll talk about the weekend forecast, all right? So there it is, guys. Thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate it. Again, check out our Etsy page. You go to the top of the Facebook page, this page right here. You'll see the links to the Etsy page of the Teespring. You can get a Rule Number 7 stuff. We're going to start doing a lot of holiday stuff coming up soon for Christmas, presents, and whatnot. Might even have a Black Friday sale, potentially. I don't know yet. Because, again, we donate the proceeds, so it kind of, you give a discount, then it takes away from the donations. But anyway. That's, you can get the new dog collars, the Christmas ornaments, and all the other stuff that's on our Etsy page. Thanks for stopping by. We will see you on tomorrow night's edition of Denis Phillips Live. You guys have a great night.
One natural disaster could change your life forever. What can you do? Turn to AARP. We help older adults and their families prepare, respond, and recover with evacuation checklists to help you remember prescriptions and other essentials, information to help you avoid scammers, connections to on-the-ground emergency responders, and lots of other tips and tools. At AARP, we're here to help. Find us at aarp.org/local.